A beautiful international student from Japan, Rika Asaba, was arranged by her father to stay at my home. I was honored to be appointed as Rika's mentor for Chinese life. In our interactions, I discovered many of her secrets. I will definitely get lost when I go out, like to huddle up when I sleep, drink water with two hands holding cups, have a crazy love for the doll clock, and be determined to work hard to earn money and buy a house on my own. I wouldn't like such a stupid girl. Years later, Li Xiang held my hand and asked me, "Xinyu, why do you like scientific research?" "Because all problems in the world can be solved through science and experimentation." "What about liking it?" "This exception." Keywords: cohabitation, dog food, daily life. Keywords of the novel: Japanese girlfriend of a top student with no pop-ups. Download the complete set of TXT for Japanese girlfriend of a top student, and read the latest chapters for Japanese girlfriend of a top student. Chapter 1. A Girl from Japan. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. A girl from Japan. In front of the courtyard gate, the gloomy father was having a dark face. "Who is coming?" The small horn hidden in the corner emits an electronic synthesized sound. "I'm your dad. Hurry up and open the door for me. Identity confirmation in progress. Please look up 45 degrees for facial recognition." Shindio was confused, so he had to look up according to the instructions and saw a small camera at the top of the door edge. "My son Xinyu is already a sophomore in college this year, and he never worries about his studies. He is known as the neighbor's child and the academic genius in the eyes of his classmates." Xinyu's academic performance was good, and as parents, he was certainly happy. However, gradually, the couple felt something was wrong. Their son seemed too smart, and simply learning textbook knowledge could no longer satisfy him. After entering university, he started his own research and spent his days thinking about tinkering with intelligent robots. The children in the neighbor's house are all busy playing games, dating, and having parties, but Xinyu has no interest in them at all. He talks about mathematics, algorithms, and programs all day in a mist. This is not like a young man of 20 years old. The old Shin family has been passed down for 3 generations, and if this continues, Shindio is afraid that his son will spend his whole life with robots. There is currently no data for your father in the database. Please go back, your father. I am very busy. Shindio. Shindio was so angry that his beard curled up. He took out his phone and called Xinyu. After 3 consecutive phone calls, the other end finally answered, and then came the son's voice. "Dad. Why? What else do I want to ask you? Why did you change the door lock? I can't get in now. It's impossible. I've recorded your data. You and Mom can both come in. What do you say you're playing around all day? Hurry up and come out and open the door." Xinyu in the room listened to the phone, but his attention was not on his father. Instead, he opened the database and rechecked Shindio's data entry status. "Don't worry, Dad, try again and I'll debug it again." Shindio was speechless, and the small horn on this side sounded again. "Who is coming?" "Shindio. I am your father." Xinyu in the room immediately found the problem and said, "Please give me your name." "I am Shindio. Identity confirmation in progress." Confirmed successfully. Then came the sound of the door lock opening, and the door finally opened. This 2-story small building is the old house of the family. His parents live in the new house, and Xinyu stays here himself. He usually sleeps on the 2nd floor, and the room on the 1st floor is considered his research base. The room on the 1st floor has been cleared, except for a few shelves stacked with various electronic parts. There are bookshelves filled with books around, and there is no extra furniture. The most expensive equipment is only a few computers inside. At this moment, Xinyu was typing code in front of a large table. At his feet, a white fat cat was lying on top of a sweeping robot sleeping. The robot tirelessly did the cleaning work, taking the fat cat around the house. Coincidentally, it turned to Shinryo's foot and was kicked by him. The robot carried the little fat cat and dribbled back. Alright, I've inputted words like your dad, your dad, your dad, and so on. Next time you come over and try again, if it doesn't work, just give me your name. How about I take a few more photos for you? My facial recognition hardware can't keep up, so I'll have to use algorithms to make up for it. The error is quite large, so getting more photos is more accurate. Shin Yuxing enthusiastically said that the gatekeeper robot is his latest invention, which is loaded with a program's learning module. The robot will automatically learn based on the visitor's appearance, visit frequency, speech recognition and other parameters. Like Shinyu entering the house by himself, the door can be opened without saying a word. If he had more funds on hand, Shinyu also planned to upgrade his camera and sound detection hardware to make it safer. Shinryo was confused by his son's words. He knew about AI, and he also knew about intelligent access control. Artificial intelligence is a popular project with broad prospects. He doesn't oppose his son's involvement in this, but there should be a degree to it. It's like going crazy like this. Can we really live with robots in the future? Dad, I want to borrow 100,000 yuan from you to upgrade some hardware. I will repay you the money for my project in 2 weeks. Listening to his son's words, Shinryo's face twitched. Son, listen to your father. Our family situation is also okay, but he doesn't have much demand of you. He will honestly finish his studies and find a good wife. When the time comes, you will come home to inherit the company, and your mother and I will retire to help you take care of your children. That's not possible. What's the point of such a life? Shinyu firmly opposed. Didn't we agree before that as long as my research yielded results, you and my mother would let me choose for myself? It would be too boring to go home and inherit the company. Shinryo was holding back an old joke and didn't know how to spit it out, thinking to himself, is there something wrong with the education at home? Don't you want to talk about a girlfriend? Even if it's not good, you can go out and play with friends. Stay at home all day and don't feel bored. Falling in love is something that only fools do. Life should be used for scientific research. Shinyu waved to the cat and said, Bai Xiaomeng, come here. The little fat cat jumped into Shinyu's arms, affectionately rubbing his chin with its brain bag, meowing. Look, I'm not bored at all with Bai Xiaomeng accompanying me. Meow, Shinryo became desperate and said, just go with the robot and the cat. Shinyu's eyes lit up and he quickly confirmed with Shinryo, Dad, is what you said true? I didn't say anything. Shinryo still didn't give up. In order to bring his son back on track and return home to inherit the family business with peace of mind in the future, he specially prepared a big move this time. On this side, Shinyu had already started sitting in front of the computer typing code again. Bai Xiaomeng jumped onto the table, her soft body embracing his arm, a pure natural cat hand warmer. Stop for a moment and listen to me finish speaking. Shinyu verbally agreed, but his efforts never stopped. AI involves many and diverse disciplines, such as mathematics, logic, induction, statistics, computer science, and so on. For others, the knowledge that needs to be learned can be overwhelming, but Shinyu enjoys the process of overcoming these difficulties. Isn't conducting scientific research fragrant? What kind of dating? Are girls even more charming than math? In the afternoon, I have a Japanese friend's daughter named Asakayu Lixiang who is coming to study here. She asked me to take care of 1 or 2 of them. Coincidentally, she is from your school, and I arranged for her to stay with you. Oh. Seeing Shinyu's calm reaction, Shinryo, who had already prepared his lines, suddenly didn't know what to say. He had no choice but to say, did you hear what I just said? What? Shinryo turned his chair around and told him again, and this time Shinyu's reaction finally became normal, no way. Why not? There are still 2 rooms on the 2nd floor, isn't there? She's a girl who came here alone without anyone to take care of her. She's beautiful, and your father won't take advantage of you. Shundio said happily, the girl is indeed beautiful, and she is a very beautiful kind. Arrange to live with this stinky guy together. Unless Shinyu likes men, he will definitely be tempted. And this is also the best way to pull his son out of his crazy state of scientific research. Shinyu's current state is very different. He is completely focused on scientific research. It's not that it's not good, but over time, even Shinyu himself has not realized it. He has become increasingly impersonal, like a work machine. If it weren't for the couple coming to see him frequently, this stinky guy wouldn't even have a phone. Sometimes, in order to conquer a certain algorithm, Shinyu even forgets to eat and stays up all night working on projects. There is no shortage of money in the family. As parents, Shindio really doesn't want his son to behave like this. Everything should have a tolerance, too much is too much. I'm very busy, so I don't have time to take care of her. Besides, I don't know Japanese and it will take me 2 weeks to learn it. I'm not available. Shinyu sternly refused. As for whether the girl was pretty or not, was she even more charming than mathematical formulas? She can speak Chinese. Shindio said solemnly, Dad knows you don't have time, but you have to agree no matter what this time. Her family is our company's biggest partner in Japan. This year, due to the impact of the epidemic, the company has suffered a lot of losses. This partnership cannot be lost under any circumstances, so this favor is not for her, but for your father and me. Shinyu fell silent, and it seemed that there was indeed no reason to refuse. Shindio hit a stick and quickly threw a sweet date, saying, Shallow feather pear fragrance doesn't live here in vain either. Her father has already paid for 2 years of accommodation. Didn't you just say there was a shortage of 100,000 yuan? You are the landlord, and I will transfer the money to you later. Shinyu's eyes lit up and he said, I'll go upstairs and tidy up my room now. New book release, seeking collection, seeking recommendations, end of this chapter. Chapter 2. Was bullied right after arriving. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 was bullied right after arriving. Japanese, Yokohama. At the airport, Kazuo Asahara held his daughter's hand and earnestly instructed her, Li Xiang, after going to China, make sure to keep in touch with your family and maintain good relationships with Mr. Shin's family. Asa Eureka understood that this time she was going to study abroad. In addition to her studies, there was also an important diplomatic task to represent the Asa Eureka and Mr. Shin families in maintaining a good cooperative relationship. Therefore, she nodded solemnly and said, I remember. Mr. Shin's company is our biggest customer, and due to the impact of the epidemic, the Chinese market has become increasingly important. Our company is on the brink of collapse, so Mr. Shin's line must not be cut off. I will arrange for you to stay at Mr. Shin's house this time, and he warmly welcomes you. At that time, he will also arrange for his son Shinyu to take care of your daily life. You must not be impolite in front of him, continued Kazuo Aseu. I'll miss you, Dad, said Asakuyu Lixiang, feeling a bit reluctant to part with her father. After all, it's the first time she's been so far away from home. Asahara Kazuo rolled up his daughter's beautiful hair in his ear and looked at her delicate face, saying softly, You have grown up too. It's time to learn how to live your own life. This time going to a distant place is also your experience. In addition, if you encounter a boy you like, feel free to pursue him boldly. Dad used to prohibit you from dating because he was afraid you would be hurt, but now that you have grown up, it's time to learn how to handle relationships on your own. Xianyu Lixiang was a bit surprised. Her father never allowed her to date before, but this time she made an exception. As a young girl, there are naturally moments of emotional palpitations, but the boy she truly likes still hasn't appeared. For things like love, Asaba Rika also holds aspirations and curiosity. I don't want to be in love. Who can say for sure about this kind of thing? It's time, You go quickly, call me when it's time. Aha. On the plane, Asakura Rika sat by the window, watching as the smaller city gradually became obscured by clouds. She couldn't help but lie on the window and try to turn her head to look down. What should we do? I just took off and felt a bit homesick. It's very rare for Shin Yukong to come out for an hour and tidy up the second-floor room with Shindio. Shindio looked at the time and ordered, "Shallow feather pear fragrance is on the 4 o'clock plane. I have something else to do later. You can drive to the airport to pick me up." Shinyu's buttocks had just sat down in front of the computer, and upon hearing this, he was naturally unwilling to say how troublesome it is. She's also 20 years old, right? Just take a taxi over by herself. I'm very busy. No matter how busy you are, you have to go. Shindio wished he could turn off his computer and said, "She came all the way here, and as the host, you're leaving her alone at the airport. Is that decent? Okay, what's her phone number? I'll come over and wait later. This is just right." After Shindio left, Shinyu began to bury his head in work again. When he regained his senses, it was already 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Oh no, I almost forgot about picking up the person. Shinyu tried to make a phone call to Asakuyu Lixiang, and the voice prompt indicated that she was still on the plane. She then sent her a text message and prepared to leave. Coincidentally, the code on the computer screen flashed and it seemed like there was a bug running. The bug caught Shinyu's gaze like a magnet, and he sat down again by a stroke of luck. By the time he finished fixing the bug, it had unknowingly arrived at 4.20. At this moment, the phone rang, and it was an international number. Shinyu immediately recognized it as the number of Shallow Feather Pear Fragrance, which he had just called. Shinyu was extremely sensitive to numbers, and the phone number was almost unforgettable. Picking up the phone and connecting, a soft, probing sound came from the other end, "Moshi, Moshi. What's wrong?" "I'm Shinyu." There seemed to be a sigh of relief over there, with an apologetic and embarrassed tone, continuing to speak in less fluent Chinese. "Hello Shinyu-jun. I am Shallow Feather Lixiang. I have arrived at the airport, may I ask how I should arrange next?" Because her father had instructed her to maintain a good relationship with Shinyu, Lixiang spoke very politely, and she herself had a gentle personality. In addition, she never wanted to trouble others, so she couldn't say that she wanted Shinyu to pick her up. It felt too embarrassing. For a moment, Shinyu almost blurted out, "Take a taxi over by yourself." Suddenly, a picture came to my mind of my father wielding a knife to chop him to death. I quickly withdrew this idea and impatiently said, "I know. You'll wait for me there. I'll come and pick you up now." "Thank you. I'm sorry to have Shin-Yu-jun personally go there." Before Asahara Rika could finish speaking, she heard a busy beep sound coming from her phone. Shinyu Lixiang felt a bit uneasy in her heart. Why did she always feel that Shinyu didn't treat her well? Did he get angry? Will he bully herself when he stays at his house in the future? Whenever she thinks about the possibility of being bullied, Rika Asaba misses home even more. The airport is bustling with people, but they are all strangers. In this distant and unfamiliar country, Rika Asaba feels a bit at a loss, feeling an unprecedented sense of loneliness. What should I do if I am really bullied? Woo-woo. Let's do our best to please him for the sake of our family's business. Asakura Rika found a seat in the rest area and waited nervously. The car was parked in the yard, and after Shinyu drove out, he drove straight towards the airport, taking many small paths to save time. He didn't use map navigation, as long as it was the road he had walked, Shinyu would definitely recognize it. In terms of memory, Shinyu has never had an opponent. Half an hour later, Shinyu had arrived near the airport, and the traffic suddenly increased. The road ahead was congested, especially when entering the parking lot, where queuing alone required a long wait. Time. Shinyu hates waiting the most. The time wasted by waiting is enough to solve many math problems on his own. At the thought that other boys often complain that when they are dating their girlfriend, girls go out to make up and change clothes and make boys wait for an hour, Shinyu feels unreasonable. This alone makes him stop falling in love. So Shinyu took out his phone and made a call to Shiluyu Lixiang. Moshi. Where are you now? Shinyu Jun. I'm at the international flight pick-up gate on the 3rd floor of T2. That's right, it's here. I'm stuck in traffic now. It's okay. Shinyu Jun. I'm not in a hurry, I can wait for you. I'm sorry you came to pick me up. You're not in a hurry, I'm in a hurry. Shinyu looked at the surrounding lanes and said, come over to the taxi pick-up area. I'll wait for you here. Do you know how to get there? It's very simple. Follow the exit instructions and head north for 200 meters when you reach the lobby. There's a small newsstand at the intersection of the traffic lights on the right and the zebra crossing. It's faster here. Listening to this long string of Chinese, Qianyu Lixiang was so anxious that she was about to cry. He spoke too quickly and didn't hear some parts clearly. The key was that she was not familiar with the place of life. As a road enthusiast, she really couldn't walk to the place Shinyu said on her own. Shinyu Jun, Is there a problem? No problem. After hanging up the phone, Rika Asaba felt despair. Is this bullying? End of this chapter. Chapter 3, Please Don't Let Me Die, TT. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3, Please Don't Let Me Die, TT. As a highly intelligent academic achiever, Shinyu's temperament has always been straightforward, and since Qianyu Lixiang said there was no problem, he naturally felt there was no problem. After all, in Shinyu's opinion, this is really an easy task, and he cannot understand the world of Lu Qi. So he left the congested traffic and came to the newsstand, finding a place to park and wait. 15 minutes later, I haven't seen anyone yet. Where have you been? Why haven't you seen me? Shinyu called Asakayu Lixiang again. The light feather pear fragrance on the other end of the phone was about to cry, as if pinching her nose to speak, with a muffled voice and a lot of grievances. Shinyu Jun. I got lost. I'm sorry. Shinyu felt incredulous. How far is this road? Look at the signpost or ask someone casually, they should be able to come over now. Scolding and questioning were also a waste of time, and Shinyu could only ask, where are you now? Qianyu Lixiang was already prepared to be scolded, but when he heard Shinyu's calm questioning, he couldn't express his feelings for a moment. Did he want to scold me again when we met? Speak up. Oh. Rika Asaba said with some fear, I don't know where I am now. I have already left the airport. This time, Asahara Rika heard clearly. On the other end of her phone, there was a loud sigh that made her tremble a bit. I'm sorry. Shinyu ignored her apology and continued to ask, are there any obvious landmarks around here? There is a Dongxing noodle restaurant in front of me, and a chef is performing ramen noodles at the door. You just stand still and don't move. Yes. Shinyu didn't know where the noodle shop was, but he took out his phone to search and quickly determined its location. Fortunately, it was not far away, just on the next street, and he walked through a small alley. It was the first time that she saw the master of ramen noodles with such good kung fu. The dough in his hand seemed to have a soul. When she saw it, she thought it should be delicious. The freshness greatly alleviated her anxiety, and her little hands tightly grasped the handle of the suitcase, standing obediently in place waiting for Shinyu to come and find her. Oh no, I forgot to tell Shinyu Jun what color of clothes I'm wearing. Will he not be able to find it later? Qianyu Lixiang's concerns are unnecessary. Shinyu focuses on AI research, which involves not only science and engineering, but also humanities, including philosophy, psychology, cognitive science, linguistics, and other research. Even though I haven't seen shallow feather pear fragrance before, the girl across from the noodle shop is so big that I can still recognize the one pulling the suitcase at a glance. The girl is about 20 years old, wearing a brown short skirt, black pantyhose wrapped around her slender legs, and a perfectly fitting small jacket, revealing her fair and delicate skin. Her small face is even more delicate, especially with her beautiful eyes and long eyelashes flickering. Her height is approximately 1.65 meters, but due to her body proportions, she looks very tall and well-proportioned compared to what appears on the surface. Shin Yu was stunned for a moment. Indeed, what his father said was correct. The fragrance of light feather pear was indeed very beautiful, almost catching up with mathematical formulas. Is that all you have with your luggage? Suddenly, a magnetic voice sounded from the back of the side. He was watching the teacher Lamian Noodles' light-plumed pear fragrance turn around, just opposite his gloomy eyes. So tall, so handsome. For a moment, Rika Asaba felt that it was okay to be bullied, and even felt a strange expectation of being bullied. Shin Yu is 20 years old this year, standing at 1.85 meters tall, with three-dimensional facial features and clean and healthy skin, especially his hands, which are particularly slender and beautiful. Such a tall boy is rare in Japan. When Shin Yu stood next to her, Qianyu Lixiang only felt a sudden darkening beside her. The pressure brought by her height and the handsomeness of the other person made her heart skip a beat. He must be a very domineering person. As soon as she thought of this, Qianyu Lixiang regained her senses and hurriedly took away her small hand holding the suitcase handle, pressed it tightly against her body, and then bowed 90 degrees to Shin Yu. She spoke a very loud and precise sentence in Chinese. Sorry. One time is not enough, try again. Sorry. She frequently bends over, like a pecking chicken, and in front of her is a terrifying eagle. Because the sound was loud and the movements were loud, the passers-by on the roadside stopped and cast curious glances at Gossip. What? This is such a big guy, bullying a little girl. Who apologizes like this? How big a mistake did this make? Having an affair? Breaking up? Feeling the gaze of passers-by around, Shin Yu felt an indescribable awkwardness. He quickly took the suitcase of shallow feather pear fragrance and pulled her away. Shallow Eureka was being pulled away by him in a daze, thinking to himself that he must have been bullied. With so much force, his small hands must have been bruised by him. So the image of a bullied girl came to mind. Messy clothes, teary eyes, bruises everywhere on fair skin. Her heart is beating faster, she doesn't want it to be like this. Shin Yu Jun. Why? Qianyu Lixiang listened to the coldness in Shin Yu's tone and cautiously said with a crying voice, You hurt me. Upon hearing this, Shin Yu finally let go of Qianyu Lixiang's small hand and awkwardly turned his head, seeming a bit rough. The two of them stood quietly by the roadside, with Asakayu Lixiang lowering her head and gently rubbing her right hand against the spot where Shin Yu was holding her left hand. You could see that her fair skin had turned red, and she looked pitiful, with a look of crying. Are you okay? Shin Yu muttered to himself, women are just trouble. Just grab a small hand and that's it. If I were a little more rough, how about it? Asakawa Rika didn't speak, just shook her head. I'm telling you, this is not Japanese. It's best not to use the bow you just made domestically, otherwise others might think I've done something to you. The tone remained devoid of any emotion, and he felt like he was making a statement, but it didn't sound like that in the ears of shallow Eureka. This must be a lesson, right? It must be. Shallow Eureka was feeling aggrieved, lightly biting her lips and not daring to say a retort. She just nodded lightly. Looking at the time, it was already over 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and Shin Yu felt that he had wasted a lot of his life again. Do you have anything else to do? No, no more. Qianyu Lixiang is actually a bit hungry, but Shin Yu is so fierce that she dare not make any other demands. Let's go then. The car is parked on the opposite side, follow me, and don't get lost again. Yes. Shinyu wanted to quickly go home and see the results of the program's operation. Although he was carrying luggage in his hand, it couldn't delay his speed at all. Unconsciously, he walked faster and faster, and due to his height and long legs, he had to jog 2 steps to keep up with his step. Although feeling wronged in my heart, I dare not raise any objections. After all, I am so far from home that crying is ignored. If Shinyu really doesn't care about her, then I really don't know what to do. After arriving at the car, Shinyu opened the trunk to put his luggage, and then let Shallow Yulixiang board the car first. Shallow Eureka has hidden things in her heart. The unfamiliar environment and people, as well as being constantly bullied, keep her nerves tense. Japanese cars are all right. Hand drive, and she habitually goes to the left driver's seat to open the car door. Shinyu said, "Are you driving?" "I don't know how to drive." "Please don't let me die." "Okay," said Rika Asahara, finally crying. Shinyu said, "What?" "If you like it, please click on bookmark voting. This is a joyful dog food book. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Having a green tea cat at home. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Having a green tea cat at home. What did you say you came all this way to study abroad for, your first time on a long trip? Shinyu drove the car and glanced silently at Asakayu Lixiang, who was sitting in the passenger seat, poking her hands and not speaking. Knowing that you are a weak chicken, but still running to open a high-level new map, isn't this purely a feeling of unease? I'm sorry. Shallow Eureka spoke weakly, and after half a day, the number of times she received scolding was comparable to all. Although I am unfamiliar with the place of life in China and feel nervous and scared in my heart, it is strange that I do not have much resistance to this feeling of helplessness, but rather find it quite novel. She secretly glanced at Shinyu's profile again, feeling that he was really super domineering. He didn't speak at all gentle, and since he was so big, no boy would talk to her so impatiently. He doesn't show any mercy towards women, even though he's just a girl like a kitten. As soon as she thought about the possibility of being bullied by him for a long time in the future, Shalayuki Rika trembled a bit. Shinyu remained silent, and she dared not speak either. The two of them sat silently in the car, and when it was getting dark, they finally returned home. The 2-story small building is located in an old city street, with many old houses with blue bricks and white tiles on both sides. This can be considered a cultural characteristic of southern Jiangsu. As a historical and cultural city, southern Jiangsu has many such old streets. Compared to high-rise residential areas, the neighborhoods are more humane. Shinyu's car was parked in front of the door, and soon the door automatically opened. He then drove back into the yard. "Get off the car, this is my house." Asaki Eureka got off the car and curiously looked at the environment in the yard. It was clean and tidy, with a stone table and chair, and a tall cypress tree. The first floor is Shinyu's research base, and the second floor is the place to live. The balcony still hangs confiscated clothes, and Shinyu rarely collects clothes. After all, this is a time-consuming thing. When he needs to wear them, he just takes them off the balcony and wears them. As long as the weather is good, he basically wears these 2 sets of clothes in rotation. Compared to living in a residential area, Rika Asahara still prefers this type of house with a yard. Most Japanese families also have this type of one household, one building, and she has a courtyard complex, decorated with a very lively atmosphere. However, the environment here is definitely not as exquisite as that of Asakura's own home, and there are no flowers or plants in the yard. In the eyes of Asahara Rika, this place is not quite like a home, but more like a dormitory, especially after seeing Shinyu's first-floor lobby with computers, various instruments, and electronic components. It confirmed this idea. "Shinyu-jun, are you living alone?" Before today, it was. Asakawa Rika realized, yes, she will also live here together in the future. "Well, why don't you plant flowers in the yard? It's so big." She opened her arms and compared sizes. I don't have time. Shinyu opened the trunk and took down his luggage. Planting flowers is a good thing for an old man. He doesn't have time to do it. Well, can I plant it then? Asakayu Lixiang asked cautiously, preparing to be scolded. After waiting for 3 seconds, I didn't hear Shinyu's response. Shinyu Lixiang was careful and started pounding wildly. Are you sure she's going to be scolded again? But unexpectedly, Shinyu casually said, you can plant it if you like, but let's talk about it first. I don't have time to help you with the yard. It's okay. I can do it myself, said Asakayu Lixiang in a loud voice. Overjoyed Shinyu asked in confusion, aren't you studying abroad? What are you doing growing flowers for? He couldn't understand, was waste of time on such things. Shinyu Lixiang also couldn't understand Shinyu's words. Is there any conflict between planting flowers and studying? After all, I want to live here, so I want to decorate the yard. Whatever you want. Shinyu said, you can do whatever you want here, but my room and the first floor are not to be touched without my permission. So strict, I know. Asakayu Rika quickly nodded. Thinking of something, Shinyu said to Lixiang again, by the way, you go out at the door first and take a few photos. Hey. Take a photo. Oh, okay. Asahara Rika arrived at the entrance and took out her phone to take a few photos with a click. She was quite good at posing, holding her phone in her right hand and comparing her left hand. She specially found a good background and smiled sweetly. Shinyu, who was watching the video surveillance in front of the computer, had a dark face clapping the microphone. His voice came from the small speaker in the corner of the door. Look up 45 degrees, look at the camera. Ah. So it's like this. Shinyu Lixiang stuck out her small tongue, put her phone back into her bag, and took photos from several angles according to Shinyu's instructions. After entering it into the database, Shinyu closed the door and spoke softly, try opening the door. Sesame opens the door. Then came the sound of Didi, and the door automatically opened. She looked curiously left and right, and behind the door, she could still see rudimentary instruments and wiring, clearly not the smart access control that was bought on the market. Shinyu-jun, how impressive. Did you make this yourself? How did you do it, Sigua? Basic operations. Shinyu was too lazy to explain to her, so she probably wouldn't understand even after explaining. The access control in the yard is actually just for fun, and there are safety gates locked on the first and second floors of the house. After completing the access control identification, Shinyu went upstairs with a light feather pear fragrance and opened the door of the second floor living room. Bai Xiaoming then threw herself into his arms. Meow meow, it's been 3 hours since we last saw him. Bai Xiaoming misses him so much, and Shinyu firmly embraces the chubby little cat, allowing it to arch its chin with its brain bag. Did you miss me? Meow, Shinyu took a deep breath at the cat, then threw down the fragrance of shallow feather pear. He went over to open the cabinet and poured cat food for Bai Xiaoming to eat. As he watched it eat, the tenderness in his eyes almost flowed out. Shallow feather pear fragrance. Days, Roa, Mu, G. Asahara Rika only feels that her worldview is about to collapse. Is this what strong men like? Why is such a domineering boy so gentle towards a cat? I'm not just looking at you, am I? Who am I? Where am I? Do I not have cat fragrance? I was indeed bullied. Watching everyone and cats affectionately affectionate in the living room, Asahi Eureka felt that she shouldn't be here, she should be under the sofa. After being hung up for a long time, Asakayu pear fragrance finally regained her composure and felt sour in her heart. Sure enough, she was alone like a dog, haha. What a lovely cat. Shallow Yulixiang also played haha, bending over to walk towards Shinyu and Bai Xiaoming, and even squatting down in front of the cat, reaching out her little hand to touch it. Meow. Bai Xiaoming didn't know her and naturally didn't let her touch her. She deftly avoided her hand and jumped into Xinyu's arms, looking at her with a wary expression. I don't know if it's an illusion, but Asakura always feels that the little fat cat's gaze at her is strange, as if she's looking at a third party. At this moment, it extended its little tongue and kissed the gloomy face, as if proudly declaring sovereignty. You scared it. Seeing Xinyu supporting herself, Bai Xiaoming changed her appearance and looked a bit afraid of the fragrance of light feather pear. Seeing her, she timidly buried her head in Xinyu's chest, as if she was acting coquettishly and complaining. It's okay, be good, let's continue eating. Meow, the fragrance of light feather pear, which has been neglected, only feels the strong aroma of tea floating in the air. She finally saw that this little fat cat was afraid of competing for favor. 2 shifts every day, 12, noon and 8 p.m., thank you for your support. End of this chapter. Chapter 5, Please Scold Me to the Heart's content. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5, Please Scold Me to the Heart's content. What's its name? Xinyu Lixiang hugged her knees and squatted with Xinyu to watch the little fat cat eat dinner. It has to be said that Bai Xiaoming's appearance is really good. Her soft hair is like dandelions in the snow, and her pair of bright blue eyes are beautiful like sapphires. I generally love cats, and Lixiang is no exception. She has always been unable to refuse cute things. Taking advantage of Bai Xiaoming's lack of attention, Xinyu Lixiang quickly touched its ear. She played cue and was so excited that she kept saying, kawaii. Bai Xiaoming gave her a glare, then stuck to Xinyu's side after finishing her meal, occupying her tightly and staring at the unfamiliar girl at home with a wary expression. It's called Bai Xiaoming. When it comes to cats, Xinyu's words clearly increased, and even Xinyu Lixiang felt his tone becoming much gentler. What kind of man is this? He's tough on cute girls like steel, but so gentle on kittens. I picked it up near the library 2 years ago, and it was only then that it was so small. I fed sheep milk one by one, and Bai Xiaoming was like me, intelligent. Xinyu's face was filled with the radiance of an old father. Listening to Xinyu's experience of raising cats, Xinyu Lixiang was also very surprised. No wonder Bai Xiaoming is so close to this guy. Is it a boy or a girl? Girls. Xinyu Lixiang nodded and guessed it. As a girl, she still has a keen sense of smell for green tea. Has she been sterilized? Rika Asaba asked again. She has never raised a cat, but she has also heard that cats can be very troublesome when they are in heat. Meow. Bai Xiaoming's eyes became even more alert as she looked at Xinyu Lixiang. No. Xinyu raised an eyebrow and said, Bai Xiaoming has never been in love before, so sterilization is not necessary. So. Shallow Eureka reached out her little hand and said to Bai Xiaoming, I am Shallow Eureka, please take care of me. Meow. Bai Xiaoming was really smart, as if she understood. Although she didn't want to bother with Lixiang, she reluctantly reached out her small claws and shook her hand. Kawaii. Xinyu Lixiang carefully looked at its small paws, and the meat pads were all pink and tender. It was indeed a young and beautiful kitten. Shallow Eureka wanted to play with Bai Xiaoming, but Bai Xiaoming didn't want to play with her. So, she chased after her cat and the other person in the room. The usually quiet home suddenly became much more lively. She was quite used to it, but Xinyu was a bit uncomfortable. She opened her mouth and wanted to say something, but still didn't say anything. Dinner is resolved through takeout, which is convenient, effortless, and worry-free. As for Shallow Feather Pear Fragrance, it is also her first time eating takeout in China. Without comparison, there is no harm to nature, just like a child who is eating instant noodles for the first time. When tasting authentic Chinese takeout for the first time, Asakura Pear Fragrance also said. Ordering takeout in China is so cheap. Eat the food well. The packaging is so exquisite. Enough quantity. Delivery is super fast. It's okay to eat takeout every day in the future. Shinyu was scolded when his father called to investigate. He ran all the way from Japan and didn't take the little girl out for a walk. He stayed at home and ordered takeout, which was outrageous. Shinyu is indeed very busy. He is eating takeout on the first floor while typing code. The project he is currently researching is about emotional computing in AI. Emotional computing is a highly integrated research direction and technical field, where humans can perceive the emotions expressed by the facial expressions, body movements, and voice tones of others through visual, auditory, and tactile senses. But after all, programs are a string of cold numbers, unlike humans who have rich emotions. Based on this, Shinyu established a preliminary emotional model database through big data, so that the program can capture corresponding data through visual, auditory, and tactile sensing devices, and then use algorithms to enable the program to understand people's emotions and intentions and make appropriate responses. How to use algorithms to enable AI to recognize, understand, express, and adapt to human emotional abilities is the biggest challenge in making computers truly intelligent. While Shinyu was focused on improving the program algorithm, at some point, Shiluyu Lixiang quietly came down from the second floor and sat on a small stool not far behind him, holding her takeout while eating. She had finished eating for a long time, and there was still a lot of gloomy takeout left on the table. Occasionally, when she remembered it, she picked up the lunchbox and took 2 bites, then put it down again and continued typing on the keyboard. On the desktop were piles of draft paper, densely covered with various numerical formulas and calculations. There was also a picture on the ground near her feet, picked up by Asakayu Lixiang and looked at it. Her mind was blank, and she didn't know what it was. If she could understand it, she would be great. Many times, gloomy drafts involve jumping calculations and omitting many processes. There was not much conversation with Shinyu, and Shiluyu Lixiang couldn't grasp what kind of person he was. Despite being so gentle with the kitten, being so cruel to oneself however, his focused appearance is really quite handsome. Shallow Feather Pear Fragrance has a combination of facial control and hand control, while Shinyu has both. Taking advantage of this, Pear Fragrance can appreciate it more, which can be considered as a reward for his aggressive behavior. The school is about to start the day after tomorrow, and Asa Eureka chose the Department of Arts and Humanities for her study abroad in China, while Shinyu chose the Department of Science and Computer Science, both of which were at Sunan University. She doesn't even know how to get to school yet. As a road enthusiast, she actually took 2 turns outside the door, maybe she got lost again. Shinyu Lixiang is a little distressed. She hasn't applied for her phone card or bank card, and she's not familiar with many common sense of life. In the future, if she wants to live in China, she can't help but ask for Shinyu's care. However, she is so cruel to herself, and when she thinks about it, she feels quite scared. Hey, why is his heart starting to beat so fast just thinking about him hurting himself? Something's not right, it's better to run away quickly. In a flustered state, Asahara Rika stood up and prepared to go upstairs. However, she accidentally hung a folder on the desktop by the corner of her clothes and scattered it all over the floor. Done. What are you doing here? Sure enough, a cold and icy voice rang in her ear, along with his scorching gaze. Shallow Feather Pear Fragrance dared not look up at him. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Shinyu Jun, please curse me hard. Shinyu Lixiang pressed her hands against her lower abdomen, lowered her head, and her beautiful hair naturally hung down to cover her small face. Her body bowed slightly, trembling as she waited for Shinyu's scolding. I'm sure he will scold me to death this time. Can he hit someone? Oh, Dad, I can't go back to see you anymore. But the expected storm did not come. After the air had been quiet for 10 seconds, Shiluyu Lixiang couldn't help but look up to see what Shinyu was doing, and then realized that he was already starting to do calculations with a pen and paper. Hey! Asakura Rika dared not speak and silently reassembled the fallen manuscript paper into a folder, even glancing at him from time to time. Seeing him seemingly completely indifferent, Qianyu Lixiang suddenly felt a bit inexplicably lost in her heart, so she cautiously asked, Shen Yujun. Won't you scold me? Shen Yu didn't even lift his head and said, why should I scold you? I disturbed your work and even knocked over your things. So you already know, what's the point of me cursing you? It's a waste of my time. Aren't you angry? You can scold me hard, but don't ignore me. Shen Yu finally stopped his pen and stared at Qianyu Lixiang for a long time, making her heart almost jump out of her throat and her palms tense with sweat. Under his gaze, shallow Eureka felt even the air thin, like a lonely little swallow facing a storm in the sea. That's the taste. That's the feeling. There are cat cakes. Shen Yu murmured a roast and turned to work again. Leave behind the satisfied pear fragrance behind. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. I really want to sit to death. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. I really want to sit to death. After debugging the program, Shen Yu finally breathed a sigh of relief. As long as there were no bugs, today's work would end here first. Look at the time, it's already 9 o'clock in the evening. Asikuyu Lixiang didn't go to the second floor, but ran to the yard to observe. What are you doing? Shen Yu asked in confusion. I'm looking at the location and considering what kind of flowers to plant, said Asikuyu Lixiang, otherwise the bare yard would look too uncomfortable. Taking advantage of the time, she even cleaned the yard specifically. The day after tomorrow is September, and autumn in southern Jiangsu is also coming. It's too late to plant flowers now, isn't it? Shen Yu reminded. Yeah. It was only then that Qianyu Lixiang remembered that many beautiful flowers and plants were no longer suitable for sowing in this season. She took out her phone and searched for flowers and plants suitable for autumn sowing on Google. Finally, she decided to plant some goldfish grass and calendula. What do you think of these? Qianyu Lixiang ran to Shen Yu's side and showed him his phone. Her phone is wearing a pink shell and a very cute panda pendant. Because I haven't applied for a domestic mobile phone card, I still use international data, and the Google pages are all in Japanese. Shen Yu can't understand, but I still think the pictures are okay. Not bad. Where do we sell seeds here? Taobao has it. You have everything you want. That's great, Shen Yujun. Could you please take me to buy it? Qianyu Lixiang held her hands on her chest and looked at Shen Yu expectantly. Shen Yu is much taller than her, so she looks down at her from a high position. Lixiang really likes this sense of oppression. Shallow Eureka is 1.65 meters tall, which is considered a very tall girl in Japan. Many boys are not as tall as her, so the pressure brought by this height is not often experienced. Please. I'll get lost if I go alone. The night sky tonight is clear, and the soft moonlight shines on her skin, giving her a powdery and greasy texture. Her face is small, but a bit baby fat. If you could pinch it, the texture would definitely be very good. Shen Yu now had this feeling, suddenly wanting to pinch her face. There is a peculiar phenomenon in psychology called cuteness aggressiveness. For example, when you see something very cute, even though you love it so much, your desire for protection is about to explode, but you can't help but want to sit down and kill her. This is a natural response of the brain to regulate emotions. In order to prevent a single emotion from becoming too strong and causing loss of control, the brain will automatically produce opposite emotions to achieve balance and prevent being killed by cuteness. Shen Yu has always been emotionally stable, and at this moment, she was almost adorable by Lixiang. So she said with a straight face, I'm not available. You're so cruel to me. Shallow Eureka shrank her neck and dared not mention it again. Shen Yu continued, Taobao is an app. Once you apply for a domestic bank card or mobile phone card, you can start shopping on your own. So. I don't quite understand. Can you please take Shin Yujun to apply for a card tomorrow, said Asakuyu Li Xiang, holding her hands on her chest again and pursing her lips. Li Xiang was already prepared to be attacked by Shin Yu again, but unexpectedly, Shin Yu agreed this time, which was not considered a promise. He just said, let's talk about it tomorrow. If you're not busy, I'll take you there. The day after tomorrow is the start of school, and the emotional computing program is also undergoing a long data learning phase according to the algorithm. As long as there are no bugs, Shin Yu is still relatively free for the time being. After all, with her father's instructions, if she doesn't pay attention to Asawara Rika, according to her intelligence, it is estimated that if she goes out tomorrow morning to apply for a card, she will have to get lost in the afternoon, and in the end, she will have to trouble herself to find it. Great. Qianyu Lixiang was very happy. Although she didn't get hurt and felt a bit disappointed, at least Shin Yu agreed to go out with her. Hey, why am I feeling down? When people enter unfamiliar environments, they always yearn for a safe harbor. Although Shin Yu is quite cruel and indifferent to her, at least she is not a bad person. Have you packed all your things? Shin Yu asked. You haven't told me which room you're staying in yet, whispered Rika Asaba. Wouldn't you ask me? Sorry. Qianyu Lixiang has been attacked again. This person is really annoying. Can't she speak a little gentleness? She's always so tough that it makes her heart beat like a deer. No, it's scary. Qianyu Lixiang silently followed Shin Yu upstairs, with all her luggage still in the living room. There were 3 rooms on the second floor, and Shin Yu slept in the master bedroom. There are 2 remaining rooms, you can choose one yourself. Can I choose this one? Qianyu Lixiang chose the room that was separated from Shin Yu by a wall, mainly because the space in this room was relatively large, and the windows were facing east. This way, in the morning, the sunlight could directly shine on the bed, which she really liked. Do you want me to help organize it? Shin Yu looked at her suitcase and asked. It seemed like there weren't many things, probably just some clothes. Don't trouble Shin Yu-jun, I'll do it myself, said the shallow feather pear fragrant. Shin Yu nodded and walked away impolitely. Leaving behind the crazily deflated pear fragrance, she dragged her heavy luggage into the house alone to settle down. Shin Yu grabbed his shorts and short sleeves, took a shower in the bathroom, and when he came out, he wiped his hair with a towel. He smoothed his wet hair back with his palm, looking quite handsome. The man who takes a shower is the most handsome, that's true. Bai Xiaomeng pounced into Shin Yu's arms with a bumpy thud, unlike shallow feather pear fragrance. Bai Xiaomeng is the main palace here and can openly rub against Shin Yu. As Shin Yu passed by the room filled with light feather pear fragrance, she saw that her things had also been organized quite well. I need to rest now. Just give me a routine notice, and if there's nothing wrong, don't bother me. Shin Yu-jun, wait. Qianyu Lixiang called out to him. What's wrong? Asahara Rika helplessly pointed to the laptop on the desk, which showed a blue screen. My computer is broken, can you help me fix it? Shin Yu had no choice but to enter her room, sit down on a chair, and help her check the computer problem. Since knowing what kind of programming he is doing, his relatives and friends have always regarded him as a computer repairman, going back and forth, and even those who don't know how to do it. Before Li Xiang's belongings moved in, Shin Yu didn't feel much when he walked into this room. After she moved the things in, this room was already nominally a girl's room. Seeing her bed, the skirt in the half-open wardrobe door, various small items on the table, cosmetics, and the faint fragrance in the room air that belonged to her. Ah, the girl is indeed a mind demon that disrupts the mind. After silently reciting the chopping, Shin Yu regained her stiff face and quickly typed the keyboard expressionlessly. He quickly helped her reset the system and successfully logged in. Alright. How impressive. Qianyu Lixiang never hesitated to express herself with exaggerated amazement, as if Shin Yu had done something so remarkable. In fact, most Japanese girls think that boys who can program are super powerful. Xianyu Lixiang is not sure what project research Xianyu is doing, but being able to fix the computer that left her helpless is simply amazing. I need to rest now. Good night. Shallow Feather Pear Fragrance escorted Xianyu out, and when she had finished organizing her things, she closed the door and started changing clothes to take a shower. I love cleanliness, especially taking baths. According to statistics, there were a total of 627 scenes in the entire Doraemon animated series where Xiong secretly watched Jingxiang take a shower. That is to say, basically as long as Shizuka is at home, as long as it is not in the bathtub, then it is on the way to the bathtub after a busy day today and feeling very tired. Asa Eureka changed into a loose t-shirt and shorts. She brought her changed clothes to the bathroom and planned to take a hot bath to relax. Xianyu had just fallen asleep when he heard the sound of Shallow Feather Pear Fragrance knocking on the door. Xianyu-jun, have you slept yet? Xianyu really wanted to crack her head to see if it was Sakuma. If I fall asleep, can I answer you? Helplessly, she had to get up and see what she was up to. When she opened the door, Li Xiang was wearing shorts and a t-shirt, revealing a pair of slender and fair legs. She was also holding a few clothes and some bathing supplies in her arms, and her expression looked a bit anxious. Shouldn't you be looking for me to give you a bath? So what's going on? Xianyu-jun. How could there be 3 little goldfish in the bathtub? When Asahara Rika first saw this scene, she was also a bit unimaginable. The bathtub was used for soaking, how could there be a little goldfish? On the contrary, Xianyu felt a bit strange. I raised it, what's wrong? You raised it. Xianyu-jun, you raised goldfish in the bathtub. Whose bathtub is used for bathing? What? Li Xiang is going to faint. What's wrong with Xianyu's taken-for-granted appearance? Isn't a bathtub just for soaking in a bath? End of this chapter. Chapter 7. How to make this button. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. How to make this button. The faint mist in the air was dispelled by the sunlight, and the dim room gradually brightened up. I still remember when I was a child, when the sun was rising, the alleys were always bustling with hot breakfast stalls along the street. Aunties picked their own vegetables and took advantage of the bustle of the market to sell them on the street. Cars honking at narrow intersections, children carrying backpacks and eating breakfast while walking, young people rushing to work, and yellow cats stretching lazily on the wall under the sun. Life was not comfortable, but looking back now, most of what I remember are some smiling faces. As the years passed, the number of people living on this ancient alley and street became fewer and fewer. Young people moved to the urban area, leaving behind these old houses and a few old men who often sit at the entrance to take a cool breath. When Xianyu rarely sleeps in, he feels the warm red eyelids gradually brighten up. He purses his brows hard and then slowly opens his eyes. Bai Xiaomeng, wake up. Xianyu softly called out the name of the cat, and the little fat cat nestled on his shoulder stretched lazily, making coquettish meows that tickled his ears. It's been a long time since I slept for such a long time. Xianyu looked at the time and found that it was already 8 o'clock in the morning. The drowsiness caused by a long sleep began to quickly clear up, and he suddenly remembered that there was still a girl named Ben living at home now. I don't know how she slept last night, but it has to be said that Shallow Feather Pear Fragrance was quite noisy last night. While taking a shower, Xianyu ran over to wake him up and asked why the bathtub kept a little goldfish. Then, an hour later, he ran over again and asked what to do with the abundance of mosquitoes. Now, Xianyu picked up his phone and saw a text message she sent in the middle of the night, saying she couldn't sleep and asking if he had slept. The girl is indeed troublesome. When I opened the door and came out to wash up, I saw that her room door was still closed and the wash basin in the bathroom was also dry, indicating that this sister had not woken up yet. Xianyu had no intention of waking her up, muttering in his heart that the girl was troublesome. He grabbed the small goldfish from the bathtub and raised them in a big red bucket. Then, he brought a brush and detergent disinfectant to carefully clean the bathtub. After finishing these, it was already 8:30. Shinyu finished washing up and took a bucket to dry the clothes in the washing machine. Asakura Rika's clothes were also together, of course, both of their underwear was hand-washed, and they were now fluttering on the balcony in the wind. Instinctively, Shinyu curiously looked at the lingerie of Shallow Feather Pear Fragrance. It was black and white, and the black size was noticeably larger than the visual effect, so she felt that even the ordinary place of the balcony had a strange and charming taste. Slash. Slash. Shinyu regained his expressionless state and continued to air clothes like a robot. Speaking of how that button was actually fastened, the button is behind her back. Did she pull her hand backwards? Shinyu was mesmerized by the thought, and by some strange coincidence, he turned his hand behind his back, feeling that the operation was indeed not easy and the difficulty was too high. Suddenly regaining consciousness, what am I doing? Slash. 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 The clothes were hung up, and Shinyu returned to the room. It was almost 9 o'clock, and Shallow Feather Pear Fragrance had not yet woken up. As expected, the cute and useless girl did not have a morning. It was really sad. Bai Xiaomeng, it's time for dinner. Meow. Bai Xiaomeng also finished using the restroom and pressed the toilet to flush the water. When she heard Shinyu call it, she ran out to eat. What flavor do you want for breakfast? Shinyu took out 2 packs of cat food, one was chicken flavored and the other was beef flavored. Bai Xiaomeng used her little paws to pull on the chicken flavor, and Shinyu poured some for it. He was also a bit hungry, so he went downstairs and went out to buy breakfast. The place to buy breakfast is next door. It is his neighbor. The family has lived here for decades. The husband and wife run a breakfast stall. The landlady is responsible for selling steamed stuffed buns and soybean milk. The boss is responsible for selling soup and flour noodles. He also makes some night snacks at night. Behind the stall is their home. Xiao Yu, it's so early today, or deep. Fried dough sticks and soybean milk. Aunt Wang warmly greeted Shinyu when she saw her. She and her husband were not very old, in their 30s, but their craftsmanship was quite good. His family had the best business in the nearby breakfast shop. Good morning, Aunt Wang. I won't eat deep. Fried dough sticks today. Let Uncle pack 2 noodles in soup for me. Shinyu responded with a smile, saying that he was the so-called academic achiever in the neighborhood, but not a bookworm. He understood human relationships and worldly wisdom very well, and the biggest difference from other young people was probably his time management. Shinyu rarely did things that wasted time. With this time, it would be better to read more books to be practical. A typical person with a cold exterior and a hot interior, if they feel that the other person is insignificant, Shinyu will not waste time on them, not even angry. Is there someone at home? Aunt Wang's mind was very fast. Yes. Shinyu didn't explain much, just habitually glanced inside the stall and didn't see the familiar little figure helping to tidy up the table. He seemed to casually ask, "Where's Puff? He hasn't come back yet. School is also starting tomorrow, right? She's going crazy playing in the countryside. Her father will come back to pick her up at noon. Yesterday on the phone, he said he caught many cicadas and will give you a few when he comes back." Upon hearing these words, Shinyu's face naturally showed a smile. Really? While chatting, 2 portions of noodles in soup were also prepared, and the speed was bound to be cut in the queue, because Aunt Wang was sneaking away from other guests to the kitchen to bring them to Shinyu. Aunt Wang, thank you. You're welcome, hurry up and take it back. If you soak it for a long time, it will burn. Shinyu returned home carrying 2 servings of noodles. When he went up to the 2nd floor, he saw Shallow Feather Pear Fragrance sneakily lying at the door of his room, her ears pressed against the door, and he didn't notice Shin Yu carrying breakfast behind him. Judging from her appearance, she had just woken up and was still wearing home shorts that happened to fit her buttocks. She was swinging her two lifeless legs and lying on the door, holding her breath, focused on eavesdropping. "What are you doing?" Unexpectedly, a gloomy voice rang from behind. Qianyu Lixiang was startled and quickly turned around, pressing tightly against the door. Her eyes were flustered, and she shook her hands in front of her, saying, "Shin Yujun. Please don't misunderstand. I just want to see if you wake up. And I dare not knock on the door, afraid of waking you up." Shin Yu was speechless, thinking to herself that if one day a zombie virus broke out, the zombie would open her head with disappointment on her face. "I woke up long ago." Shin Yu placed two breakfasts on the table, opened one for himself and started eating. Bai Xiaomeng, smelling the fragrance, ran in from the balcony and jumped onto his lap, waiting to eat. "So. You woke up so early." Shallow Eureka smiled awkwardly, neither standing nor sitting, and smelling the aroma of noodles, her stomach began to grumble uncontrollably. "Have you washed up yet?" "Not yet. I forgot to bring my toothbrush. There are cups and toothbrushes in the cabinet above the wash basin. Hurry up and wash up. After breakfast, I'll take you to apply for a bank card or mobile card. You may not be available in the afternoon." Good as if granted amnesty, Asakuyu pear fragrance fled as if. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Ah, damn mosquitoes. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Ah, damn mosquitoes. When she was washing up, Asa Eureka also saw that the bathtub in the bathroom had been emptied and cleaned. 3 little goldfish stayed in the big red bucket and saw Shallow Feather Pear Fragrance walking towards her. They spat a few bubbles at her and then sank again, as if protesting against the occupation of their home. Wow! Looking at the clean porcelain white bathtub, Shallow Pear Fragrance was very excited. Humph, he is indeed a person who speaks deceitfully. Although he is quite nice, he always speaks aggressively. Asaki Eureka reached out and touched the bathtub. It was so big that 2 people could wash it together. You can lie flat with your legs stretched out and soak them in hot water. It must be very comfortable. Last night, I didn't take a hot bath, so Li Xiang always felt uncomfortable sleeping. In addition, it was an old alley and there was a small river not far away. There were more mosquitoes, and in the unfamiliar environment, I couldn't sleep as I tossed and turned. After brushing her teeth, she carefully tidied up her hair in front of the mirror and simply added makeup. Japanese girls are very concerned about their own image. When going out to meet people, they will definitely put on makeup and not let others see their bad side. Just now, I didn't know that Shin Yu had already woken up, but when he saw his messy appearance, he was ashamed to death. There is also a pink bud on her fair arm. Yesterday, she was bitten by a mosquito and felt a bit itchy. She used her nails to forcefully pinch across on the small bud, so that it wouldn't itch anymore. Unconsciously, after entering the restroom for a while, a gloomy voice came from outside. "Did you fall into the toilet?" As soon as the words were finished, I saw the light feather pear fragrance running out with a thud. "Sorry for keeping you waiting. I'm doing makeup, it was too ugly just now." Shin Yutsai didn't wait for her, he was already full. Upon hearing this, she looked up at her again and felt his gaze. Shallow Eureka shyly lowered her head. "It looked pretty good just now. What's wasting this time on? Is this praise?" Qianyu Lixiang was a bit uncertain and felt like he was being aggressive again. After all, in Japan, it's impolite for girls to not wear makeup to meet people. "Sorry, I'll be earlier next time. Hurry up and eat, the batter won't taste good anymore." Shin Yu put away the dishes she had finished eating and placed another portion of noodles in front of her. "Just smelling the fragrance is already tempting enough. I haven't eaten anything from yesterday's dinner until now, and the fragrance of the light feather pear is already very hungry." It smells so good. Shallow Eureka's eyes lit up, and she held chopsticks in her chest with both hands, as if something big was enough to make her fuss. What kind of noodles is this? It looks delicious. Su-style noodles in soup. This noodles in soup is a feature of southern Jiangsu. Shenyu has eaten it for so many years, and he also knows what Aunt Wang's family does. He has to start cooking soup before dawn, adding chicken, duck bone and other soup ingredients, as well as some distilled wine to add flavor. From the appearance, the soup is clear and transparent, with thin white noodles and chopped scallions. It is covered with a few pieces of tender and transparent braised meat, which is very fresh. I'm moving. Shallow Feather Pear Fragrance first picked up a few noodles with chopsticks, blew them into the mouth, and the taste was smooth and elastic. Eating another piece of stewed meat, it is incredibly tender and melts right into the mouth. Finally, take another sip of the soup. The sweetness of the wine is faintly visible, perfectly combined with the aroma of the noodles. Eat well. The taste buds of Asahara Pear Fragrance were activated, and several orders of eating noodles were tried, such as using a spoon to scoop up some soup, a few noodles, a small piece of meat, a small pinch of side dishes, and finally taking a big bite together. Amazing. Looking at her happy face, Shenyu always feels that she is just enjoying food, and she is just filling her stomach. Aunt Wang's noodles in soup is really delicious, but it's really so exaggerated the food program team didn't invite Asawara Rika as a trial audience, it's really a waste. Shenyu-jun, can we continue to eat this noodles tomorrow? Finally finished eating, there was not even a bit of soup left in the bowl of Shallow Feather Pear Fragrance. Just looking at the appetite, it was much stronger than many young girls, like many female classmates like Shenyu who never drank soup when eating noodles. As long as you're not tired of eating. How could such delicious noodles get greasy? Asaki Eureka took the initiative to tidy up the leftover food, touched her belly, and leaned against the sofa, feeling extremely satisfied. Bai Xiaoming jumped onto the sofa, kicked her little buttocks with disgust, and then forcefully arched her. Hey, Bai Xiaoming, Qianyu Lixiang wanted to touch it, but Bai Xiaoming jumped out and didn't let her touch it. Shenyu reminded, you're lying in Bai Xiaoming's position. Ah. Meow. I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Qianyu Lixiang moved her position, and the corner of the sofa was Bai Xiaoming's exclusive spot. Except for Shenyu, no one could sit there. If Shenyu sat there, Bai Xiaoming would crawl into Shenyu's arms and lie down. Actually, most of the time, as long as Shenyu is sitting, Bai Xiaoming will first crawl into his arms. If Shenyu is not around, he will run to the balcony or yard to bask in the sun. If it rains, he will then run to the sofa. Today was an exception, as Bai Xiaoming ran out of Shenyu's arms to defend her sovereignty when she saw Shallow Feather Pear Fragrance occupying its position. There were many mosquitoes last night, Shenyu-jun. Did you get bitten? Shallow Eureka extended her fair arm, and the bud that she had pinched across the cross returned to its original shape, and it looked even larger, red like a flower bud. Shenyu looked at it and wanted to pinch it, probably feeling very bouncy. Because this little bud looks cute and aggressive, it's normal to think about pinching it, Shenyu explained. I slept very well. Why don't mosquitoes bite you? Qianyu Lixiang is very envious. She has a constitution that is often bitten by mosquitoes, and the key is that her skin is also sensitive. If she is bitten, she immediately has an itchy bud. Bai Xiaoming can help me catch mosquitoes. Meow. People are really more popular than people. Why doesn't her cat help catch mosquitoes? No, she doesn't even have a cat. What should I do? I'll be bitten again tonight. Buy an electric mosquito repellent later, drive away mosquitoes before bedtime, and with the air conditioning on, it's basically gone. Watching her occasionally pinch the small bud, sometimes making a cross, sometimes making a rice character, Shenyu got up and went into the room to bring out a bottle of cool oil. The transparent glass bottle showed the emerald green liquid. Try this one. Cool oil is a common household item that is cheap and practical. It can be used for mosquito bites, dizziness, and drowsiness. With just a little application, it will quickly take effect and is simply versatile. It's quite fragrant. Did you drink all this small bottle? Said Qianyu pear fragrance curiously, having never used it before. Can the brain circuit be functioning properly? Qianyu said speechlessly, this is for painting. You're killing me again, isn't that unclear to me? Qianyu Lixiang thought wrongly and then extended by Xingxing's arm, waiting for Qianyu to help her apply. Apply it yourself. Thank you for your heartfelt smile, the most handsome Qingga, Lisheng Taichu, and the 520 reward of clear sky and water without moon, Momoda. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Going further and further on strange roads. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Going further and further on strange roads. At around 10 o'clock, Shendio called Qianyu again, asking him to let go of what he was doing and bring shallow feather pear fragrance to finish the things he needed to do and the daily necessities he needed to buy. Okay, I got it. She's very used to living here. That's it. Her phone runs out of gas. Qianyu hung up the phone and continued typing the keyboard in front of the computer to check the running status of the program. Qianyu Jun. I'm ready. We can start now. Qianyu Lixiang came down from upstairs, holding a small notebook on which Qianyu asked her to record in advance what she wanted to buy and do when going out for a while. Qianyu had no hope for the intelligence of this foolish young girl. If she didn't keep a good record beforehand, she might have forgotten everything when going out later, running 2 or 3 times without stopping. Let me take a look. Qianyu reached out his hand and handed the small notebook to him with a shy and coy expression. Apply for bank card, apply for mobile card, buy sanitary napkins, buy lipstick, buying a water cup. There were a dazzling array of things listed in 4 or 50, and even many things that Qianyu didn't know what to use at the end. What is your eyebrow raincoat? Is it a raincoat to prevent rain or one with eyebrows painted? Qianyu felt like he had hit a knowledge-blind spot and hadn't encountered anything in life that he didn't understand for a long time. Well, this is something that needs to be applied on top of the eyebrows after drawing them, to prevent them from being rubbed off or melting when sweating. Qianyu Lixiang enthusiastically introduced her, while Qianyu curiously stared at her eyebrows, which looked very similar to real eyebrows. Is it painted on? Are your eyebrows fake? No, girls' eyebrows are relatively light, so they definitely need to be drawn. Qianyu Lixiang approached to show Qianyu, but before Qianyu could take it seriously, she felt that it seemed too intimate. She blushed and turned her head. Is it necessary? Aren't your eyebrows pretty good? You have to waste a lot of time busy with these things every day. Qianyu felt it was a bit difficult to understand. Even if she didn't look good, makeup was fine. Even though her facial features and skin were very delicate, she still needed makeup. It's impolite to go out without makeup. In our country, there are no women on the streets who don't wear makeup. Girls need to learn how to use makeup from middle school on. Even married housewives wake up with makeup first at the dressing table. Asa Eureka explained, do I need to put on makeup even if I don't go out? Yeah, if it's very messy, it will make my husband lose face, so I need to maintain my best condition to make my husband very face-saving in the future. Moreover, men work very hard. If you come home and see your wife looking ugly, you must also be very unhappy, said Asaba Rika, as if saying something very normal. Qianyu curiously said, do you think this girl stopped working after getting married? Not really. If there's a lot of pressure, it would be even harder for my wife not to work, right? Of course, if my husband is very tough and he asks me not to work, then I'll focus on taking care of my family, said Asaba Rika, shaking her head. You don't seem to have any other thoughts. Hey. What's the idea? For example, a strong woman is someone who is also very talented, earning money through her own work, and has particularly strong work abilities. Oh, I envy that kind of thing too, but I can't. Asawa Lixiang is very self-aware. Although she doesn't have sakama in her brain seeds, she is not far away from being curd jelly served with sauce. If you are looking to earn money from work, you may not have much hope. Perhaps you can find a job in Chinese-Japanese translation. It is better to make more use of this opportunity to study abroad, learn more life skills, and be a virtuous and considerate wife, such as learning how to cook Chinese food. She thinks Chinese food is particularly delicious. Shinyu took the key and prepared to drive, while Shiluyu Lixiang quickly ran to the driver's seat to get in. Remembering the great embarrassment she had caused yesterday, she calmly went from the front to the passenger seat and sat down. The door opened and the car slowly drove out. Shinyu also introduced her to the nearby area. After all, if she didn't tell her, she would come and ask sooner or later, and I would trouble to take her out for another trip. This breakfast shop is what we had in the morning. At this moment, Aunt Wang was still busy. When she saw Shinyu's car, she greeted him and saw the girl in the passenger seat with sharp eyes. No wonder I bought 2 breakfasts this morning, so I took the girl home. That girl was at his house so early, it's obvious that she stayed overnight here last night. The son of the old Shin family is very promising. Who said he's a bookworm? He's only 20 years old, so he took his girlfriend home for the night. And this girl is really beautiful, she looks very gentle and lovely. Oh, she even waved to her aunt here, how polite. So he loudly boasted, your girlfriend is really handsome. 2 black lines slid down Shinyu's face, and he was too lazy to explain. After a while, he naturally found out. She's talking about me, isn't she? Said Rika Asaba curiously. So. Shallow Eureka understands. Shinyu didn't rush to take her shopping, but instead took her around the area to familiarize herself with the surrounding road conditions. This can be considered the most words Shinyu has said to her in the past 2 days, even he felt like he could be so verbose. Asakayu Lixiang, however, felt a bit dizzy as she listened. She took out a pen and paper and took notes while listening, while also drawing a road map by hand. For example, this one with a bowl of small ramen noodles means noodle shop, and this one with a dog means pet shop. It seems that she is listening, but in fact her brain is blank, so she doesn't know where the car is going. This is really too complicated. Lixiang Chenyu felt a bit desperate, as the area was surrounded by old streets and the planning was naturally quite chaotic. What was even more despairing than her was Shinyu. At first, he patiently explained the route to her. He thought she could remember it, but when he circled around and asked her where it was, she hurriedly opened her notebook to compare it, and then exclaimed in surprise. Ah! It's clearly not in this position. Shinyu stopped the car, and in the quiet carriage, his breathing became more pronounced. I'm sorry. Shallow Eureka lowered her head, holding a notebook in her hands on her chest, and her small feet were so tense that she had nowhere to place them. Shinyu-jun, you can scold me. Even though you taught me so hard, I still can't remember. Asakawa Rika looked up at him with a heroic spirit like a moth to the fire. Shinyu actually saw a hint of anticipation in her eyes. Why are you so stupid? Listening to a gloomy scolding, Shiluyu Lixiang felt her breathing stop, as if she had been holding her breath underwater for a long time. Suddenly, her adrenaline surged, her pretty face burned, her heart pounded, and finally she exhaled this breath for a long time, a brand new feeling she had never experienced before. Shallow feather pear fragrance has not been attacked before. When others attack her, she only feels very aggrieved, but when Shinyu attacks her, the experience given to her is completely different. Because Shinyu is really handsome and tall, the feeling of oppression when he is fierce is really amazing. Looking at the blushing face of the co-pilot, Asahara Rika, even her earlobes turned pink. Her little hand anxiously gripped the seat belt, looking as if she was about to cry. Shinyu couldn't bear it anymore. Am I really very strict? But it's also true that she can't remember such a simple route. If she goes out on her own in the future, she will get lost every minute, and in the end, she will have to trouble him to find it. How can he not be angry? Sorry, I spoke a little louder, you. Upon hearing Xinyu's tone, it seemed that she had softened, and Xinyu Lixiang quickly looked up with a fearless expression. It's okay. Xinyu Jun, please don't stop scolding. What? You're really not right. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Recharge phone fees to send off girlfriend. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Recharge phone fees to send off girlfriend, get off the car. Oh. Xinyu found a place to park the car, and Xinyu Lixiang got off the car together. Xinyu no longer holds hope for teaching her how to find the way. After she completes her bank card and mobile phone card, let's install a map software for her. We can't just look at the map and still get lost. Arriving at the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, Xinyu went to queue up to collect the number. Foreigners applying for bank cards in China require passports and other documents, but it is not complicated either. At this moment, there were a few people, and the two of them were waiting quietly on the chairs. Can we get the card immediately after we finish processing it? Asked Rika Asaba curiously as she looked at the people around her. So fast, it's quite troublesome for us to apply for a bank card. We can only get our passbook first, and we have to wait slowly for the bank card. Shallow Yulixiang chattered away, buzzing around Xinyu like a little bee. I didn't realize she talked so much yesterday. Why is she so talkative with a little familiarity? Accustomed to being alone and quiet, suddenly there was a little talkative beside her, and Xinyu was not used to it. Xinyu dislikes the process of waiting very much. Usually, when he has to wait, he would close his eyes and use this time to think. However, shallow Eureka kept talking to him, so he couldn't even think. Unfortunately, he couldn't be harsh on her yet, because Xinyu seemed to realize that the more aggressive he was towards her, the more she became. Xinyu Jun, I always feel like they're all looking at me. Doesn't it seem like I'm from China at first glance? Who's watching you? I don't know, but I always feel like someone is looking at me from time to time. Xinyu lifted his head and looked around. Apart from a few young boys and girls who did occasionally glance at her, there was no one maliciously staring at her. Shallow Eureka's attire is also very normal. Japanese girls love short skirts, and today she is also wearing a checkered short skirt paired with a beige knitted sweater, as well as a pair of calf socks. The leg shape looks thin and straight, which is very eye-catching. Probably because you're dressed quite differently. Is it very special? Xinyu Lixiang was a bit curious, and then looked at the other girls around her. It was indeed only her style of dressing. Coincidentally, a girl wearing JK walked into the door, who was also wearing calf socks and a short skirt. Asakura Rika seemed to understand something special about her attire. JK girl also came to apply for a card, and after picking up the number, she happened to sit next to Asawara Rika. What many boys don't know is that sometimes girls love to look at beautiful women more than boys. At this time, JK girls looked at Asakura pear fragrance and only felt that it was too beautiful. Whether it was wearing clothes or makeup, the Japanese style was also too strong. She must be a senior Japanese girl. Little sister, you look so beautiful. JK girl has already taken shallow feather pear fragrance as her own person and praised her with a smile. Hey, are you talking to me? Sayaka Hanyu didn't react yet. Yeah. Your boyfriend is also very handsome, JK girl whispered with a thumbs up. Ah, thank you. Rika Asaba had not yet realized. It seemed that the girl in JK uniform was older than her, and she even called her Mississippi. Does she look so old? However, she was also quite curious. The other party probably didn't go to high school anymore, and they were still wearing uniforms, which always felt strange. Of course, polite pear fragrance won't be spoken out. Little sister, the style of your dress and socks is so stylish. Where did you buy them from? Can you introduce them to me? That's the purpose of JK's girls' conversation. Ah, this one was bought in Yokohama, Mitsui Mall. Listening to Asawara Rika's words was natural, and she didn't show off at all. The JK girl finally noticed that the other person's accent seemed a bit strange. Although the tone was soft and sticky, it sounded very nice, but the accent sounded different from the people here. Where is the little sister from? Me. Yokohama. This is not a Japanese girl, this is a serious Japanese girl. At this point, the number was broadcasted at the counter, and it was Asawara Rika's turn to handle the business. Asakuyu Lixiang didn't even know she had been called, until Shinyu, who was quiet beside her, spoke up, "It's your turn, why don't you go?" "Oh, I'm sorry, I'll leave first." Saying to the JK girl, Asa Eureka quickly took her bag, ID, and number slip to the counter. A deep and resentful voice came from behind. The second counter on the far right. "Where are you going?" After the light feather pear fragrance left, the space between Shinyu and JK girl became empty. Seeing Shinyu so fierce and able to attract such a beautiful Japanese girlfriend, JK girl was still curious and leaned in to talk to him. But Shinyu ignored her and closed his eyes to think. JK girl felt bored and snorted, "You're so handsome and amazing. Such a beautiful girlfriend is fierce. I wish you could break up when you turn left when you go out." Shallow Yu Lixiang's Chinese proficiency is quite good, and the staff is also quite patient. They explain everything they don't understand very clearly, which is the advantage of having a sweet voice. After obtaining her own bank card, Asa Eureka also breathed a sigh of relief, so she didn't need to carry a lot of cash when going out. As she watched Shinyu go out, it seemed like she only had two things: a key and a phone. I was a little surprised. Before coming to China, she had already heard that China's mobile payments were very advanced and popular, and she only needed to bring her phone when going out. In Japan, most of the time, she still has to rely on cash or credit cards for payment. "Hello. Please help me deposit it into my card, thank you," said Asakuyu Lixiang, taking out 2 stacks of 100 yuan bills from her bag. When she finished everything and put the cards in her bag, Shinyu had already arrived behind her at some point. "Is it done?" "Aha. Let's go then." After leaving the bank, Shinyu turned right with Lixiang and went to the nearby mobile business hall to apply for a mobile card. "Are you saying that by charging 2,000 yuan for the phone bill, you can get this phone as a gift?" In the business hall, the salesperson is enthusiastically introducing the set meal to Shallow Lixiang. "Yes, not only do we give you this phone as a gift, but we also offer you a 2-year monthly package of 50 gigabytes of data, with only 1.51 minutes of call time, and..." After hearing this, Shinyu Lixiang was extremely moved and quickly tugged at Shinyu's sleeve, saying, "She gave a lot of gifts. How about I take care of this?" Shinyu thought to himself, "What's this? There's also a way to recharge the phone bill and give it to his girlfriend. Don't you have a phone now? What else do you need this phone for? But she gave it as a gift, it feels super affordable. And my phone is in Japanese, I want to switch to Chinese." Shinyu Lixiang adheres to the principle of diligence and frugality in managing a household. It's a gift, don't waste it, and the phone bill will have to be paid sooner or later. She didn't know why she sought Shinyu's opinion, as if she had done it subconsciously. Although Shinyu was very aggressive, after all, the person she trusted the most here was him. "Give me your phone." "Nah." Asahara Rika obediently gave him her phone. This is an Apple 10 that has been in use for over a year now. Although it has already been released to Apple 12, it has always been well protected and runs without getting stuck. It only plays small games or is used for chatting. There are many bundled phones for charging phone bills, and the phone bills are not charged at once. Moreover, there are many rogue apps inside that you cannot delete, which is very annoying. Shinyu adjusted Lixiang's phone, and when she returned it to her, Lixiang was surprised and said, hey. It's changed to Chinese. How did you do it? Isn't it in the settings? I don't know. I've never seen anything in the settings before. Shinyu wanted to get rid of her brain. Forget it, she doesn't even have a head. He arrived at the counter with a light feather pear fragrance and chose to apply for another package. Charge 500 yuan and give one teddy bear as a gift. When she came out, shallow Eureka hugged this big brown furry bear with satisfaction. Sure enough, you can give anything away. The character card has been added. Go and compare your favorite characters with your heart now, thanks to Lu Juiying's 5,000 coins, LOL Yi Yen and Huang Xiaoyan's 2,000 coins, Captain_C, the ideal 1,000 coins, Jingjing's cute exclusive little cat, Stormhammer Timo, ending tears, 1,000 Fu is also good, the shallowness of peach blossoms, sway encounter and peace, leisurely watching the gathering and scattering of wind and clouds, burying Shura, the absence of cute, the summer dream of dawn, good, very good, etc., as well as other classmates' 100 coin rewards. Thank you everyone. End of this chapter.